Alexis Caldwell, and I'm here to share with you my Civic Fellow experience working for a public health nonprofit called Genetic Alliance in Washington, D.C. So many people assert, researchers in particular, that finding individuals to act as participants in clinical trials for rare genetic disorders is like finding a needle in a haystack. But Genetic Alliance believes that the haystack is truly made of needles. So imagine that it's 1994, and you're a parent of 2 children. It's 2 days before Christmas, and before your pediatrician goes off on his vacation for the Christmas holiday, you are concerned about a skin lesion that's been on your daughter's neck, so you decide to take her in. And your youngest son comes along with you. The pediatrician who specializes in dermatology takes a quick look at your daughter and says she has PXE. She'll be blind by the time that she's 30, and then glances at your son and says he also has PXE. Up until this point, you've maybe been vaguely interested in the world of genetics. It's 1994, so there's a lot going on in this sphere, but it's never been a part of your world. All of a sudden, it becomes immediately relevant to you. Gerard, you begin studying the condition, scouring all of the documents and literature in medical libraries, and quickly learn that medical libraries are not lay-friendly environments. Within 1 week, you receive calls from 2 researchers, one from a nearby university and the other from a research hospital. They ask for blood samples from your 2 children, wanting to use them for research on PXE. You're shocked when they tell you that they can't share samples and that there's no central biological repository for data collected from individuals with PXE. So this is a story of Sharon Terry, the CEO of Genetic Alliance, who founded the organization soon after her 2 children were diagnosed with PXE. Genetic Alliance has its hands in a number of initiatives. One is GINA, the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, which they're integral in passing, and asserts that for purposes of health insurance and for employment, there can be no legal discrimination based on your genetic information. Genetic Alliance is also involved with President Obama's Precision Medicine Initiative. Also a platform called PEER, the platform for engaging everyone responsibly, where individuals can submit their health information so that researchers can have access to that information when they go to conduct studies on genetic diseases and disorders. Baby's First Test, which disseminates information on newborn screening. Free the Data, which brings together individuals who have the BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutation that are related and associated with breast and ovarian cancer. And NETS, the focus of my research and my work with Genetic Alliance, the network for engaging in translational science, which I know there are many acronyms. Genetic Alliance is a lot like alphabet soup, but I'll walk you through NETS soon. But before you can fully understand NETS, it's important that you understand the pain points that are associated with medical device development. The first, with FDA regulatory approval of medical devices, is the 510(k) stipulation. So have any of you seen this before? No? Have any of you used an EpiPen or seen an EpiPen? So this is the AviQ. It's the newer generation of the EpiPen, the new and improved. It's an autoimmune injector, which can be used to help individuals who are undergoing anaphylaxis due to allergies or genetic conditions. And in order for the AviQ to be able to be a product that's brought to market, it's actually invented, co-developed by individuals who are twins here in Richmond, Virginia, and lives down in Checo Bottom. But in order to bring the product to market, they had to show that it's substantially equivalent and at least as safe and as effective as the EpiPen, which is an important stipulation to make. It's important that any new technology that's used for medical purposes is safe and effective and an improvement over existing technologies. But at the same time, this makes it very difficult for de novo devices, so devices that don't have a predicate, to make it to market, which especially now that so many new genetic conditions are being discovered every day, new diseases and disorders being discovered. There are constantly new innovations that have no predicate that are trying to be brought to market, but must undergo a very strenuous and difficult process in order to be brought to the consumer. There are also challenges of procuring investments. One very shocking statistic that stands out to me is that in the past 4 years, although venture capitalist investment as a whole has increased by 90%, venture capitalist investment in medical devices has decreased by 9%. So for a field that has potential to save so many lives, it's sad that venture capitalist investment is so low in these areas. And it's low for a reason. There's serious risk associated with investing in class 3 medical devices, which are those which are life-sustaining and life-supporting, but also some of the most potentially helpful devices if they're able to be brought to market. So a lot of times, medical device developers will go overseas in order to perform clinical trials, and that makes it very difficult for those devices to then receive approval to be administered in the United States. So with all of these regulatory, funding, cost pressures, business model issues, it develops an environment where medical device fields are delivering exactly what the consumer wants, nothing less, but also nothing more. So one way to address this issue is to change the way that stakeholders view medical device development. Like drug development, medical device development pathway is often shown to be an oversimplified pipeline model. This fails to address many of the pivot points and opportunities for collaboration that are possible within the medical device field and that advance health solutions. The goal for the NETS model is to inspire a realistic, open source approach to medical device development in a way that engages all stakeholders, including patients, families, medical device developers, clinicians, and disease advocacy organizations. And it does so through a web-based tool that looks like this. So as a patient, you can click on one of the terms, for example, clinical trials, and find clinical trials that are relevant to your genetic conditions in regions near you. But as a researcher, you can also click on a term to hear testimonials from other developers who have successfully navigated that region of the FDA regulatory process. So through my fellowship, I learned not only how to pronounce, but also how to employ autodidacticism, maybe pronounce it, or self-teaching. So Genetic Alliance is founded by a woman who completely taught herself everything about public health and genetic information from the ground up when her children were diagnosed. I also had the experience of self-education when I taught myself about the regulatory pathways associated with the FDA, which can be very convoluted. As a biochemistry major, I love working with passionate genetic counselors, computer scientists, and system engineers in a way that was collaborative. And I learned the power of community engagement. I learned that we can all play a role in accelerating health solutions, and that the haystack is truly made of needles. So with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Carrie Wu, my research mentor, and also my mentor here for the Civic Fellowship, Sharon Harry and Erica Williams, my direct supervisors at Genetic Alliance, and it's Cassie Price and Mr. Ashton for all of your work at the TCE, and Dr. David Hughes Burns and the Burns family for your generosity.